Well, hello there, Mr. John G and Y.
Good
And
evening, Dan.
how are you this evening?
Well, I'm feeling great. From now on, when you introduce me, this is what I want it to be with a little side music.
Oh, okay.
It's
All
a
right.
little low. It's a little low, but it's a little 90s.
A little bugaloo. I like it. Yo. Hey, I'm here for it, man. Just like you all are here for the goodies that we have in store for you this evening. But first, we must get into the legendary intro video.
Women out here. When I said we was country. You country
Never gets
Where,
old.
where do you think
Absolutely.
that your ranks?
As far as the hierarchy of New York words, I think right now it has to be at the top.
Well, I
It's
mean, I
most
mean that
synonymous.
specific, that specific year, because like if you do the year, like there's
Mhm.
a certain amount of time where you've gone too far.
Your that you did in that video, you're saying specifically, where does it rank amongst all yours?
I
Is
think
that
it's like a 9.5 out of 10.
That's a solid year, yo. I mean, everyone at the Bronx Ale House heard it that night, and it got people pumped. Like, people came up to John afterwards. They were asking for his autograph. One even asked if he could kiss their baby. It was crazy. It was
True
madness.
story. Only facts here.
You know. Well, good evening. Welcome to episode 5 of Out the Gate. I be's your boy, Danny Yankee. You'll notice a different handle today. DC the Guide on Instagram and Twitter. And I am here with my illustrious co-host, Mr. John G and Y.
Evening. Good evening.
We got a ton of things to discuss this evening.
We do.
But first and foremost, it's hard not to discuss what's been on everybody's mind today, what's been on everyone's mind in the last year. And that is today marks the anniversary of the 1 year since we all really felt the impact of COVID-19 here in the United States.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, well, it is an anniversary for sure.
Not so happy.
Not so happy indeed. Obviously, without getting into too much of it, everyone knows the impact that COVID has had throughout the world and in this country specifically. And I think it is one of those things that in our lifetime, as time moves on, and you hope things get back to normal sometime soon, but it's going to be tough not to look back and reflect on where you were and exactly what was happening at that time when you first saw the entire thing unfold with Rudy Gobert and the Utah Jazz.
Right. Well, where were you is going to be that for sure. And we happen to be in a very interesting place that evening. But I think the thing that stuck out to me for us was the flight, and more specifically how prepared you were. You were like the COVID whisperer.
Well,
at that time.
The reality was it was still sort of up in the air as to what to expect. We didn't really know the severity of it. Like obviously we heard that things were happening in other places, but it hadn't quite hit here in the US. And we discussed it ahead of time, like, hey, what do you think we should do? And ultimately we just decided to go down to Florida because it is a tradition that we go to spring training. And yeah, while I was sitting on the in the seat, I disinfected the entire seat that I sat on. I disinfected the seat in front of me. I disinfected the screen because it was a JetBlue airplane. The ladies right across from me were cracking up. Our buddy Pedro, he even recorded me doing this. I had a whole bag. I was ready to go. So, and in hindsight, that was absolutely the right thing to do. A person ahead of his time, I will say. But it's tough not to remember just touching down in Tampa and seeing.
Do you want to talk about the little baggie that you had?
The little baggie? Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I had alcohol wipes in there. I had alcohol spray. I had Theraflu in there. I had aspirin, ton of napkins, ton of disposable gloves. It was quite the survival kit, you know?
It was a kit that probably a month later would have costed $150.
Oh, word. No, without a doubt, man. Remember that craziness with like the shortage of alcohol and Purell and all that? So I definitely had all that with me. And as time went on, we definitely ate into those supplies while we were in Florida. So we arrived, we saw the whole thing happen with Rudy Gobert. And at that point, we knew, hey, this probably isn't going to happen. Luckily, John was able to secure a really awesome Airbnb. And sure enough, the next day, you know, the Yankees announced like this wasn't going to happen. And when you think about like the NBA setting the precedent in what they did, you can't help but wonder how much they actually saved the country in the sense that they really treated it like it was a severe thing. A lot of the other major sports followed, and one can even make the argument that the U.S. and the rest of the world would soon follow suit with what they put in place. So,
yeah,
you know, we spent the weekend at the Airbnb. We had a pool. We had a pool table. We even drove out to George M. Steinbrenner Field just to check the outside. We briefly browsed indoors at the Yankee shop just to cop a little something to try to make it somewhat normal. But of course, the moment that we got back, it was pretty much all downhill from there.
Yeah, well, the game, the day that we were coming in late that evening, like just past midnight, and then the next day was going to be the first game. And remember, we were like, I hope they don't cancel it. And then by the time we landed, we found out that like, oh no, I think it was the next day where we found out that things were being postponed because MLB was a little bit later than the rest of them, being that it was like spring training and all that.
Right.
But you know,
yeah, for sure. And they probably suffered the most out of all the sports, right? Because all the other sports, basketball was put on hold and NHL was put on hold, but baseball was just starting up, and all the other sports pretty much used the template on the things not to do according to what baseball did. And obviously, like, they had the most shortened season in 60 games. So a year ago, we'll live in infamy for sure. We are now reaching a realm of somewhat normalcy, right? We spoke about this weeks prior. Fans are coming back. People are getting vaccinated. So you hope that at least by the time, you know, summer hits stride, that we'll be back and ready to go, full action. I look forward to the day that that's actually possible again.
Yeah, I think it's going to be sooner rather than later. By the way, the NBA and the NHL had already been, like, I think at least 3/4 of the way with their season. So
right.
At least financially, you know, I mean, they, you know, playoffs are everything, but, you know, they were able to at least have a chunk of the season. Baseball had that cut for what, half of March, then April, May, June, until July was 4 months. And then they had those negotiation breakdowns, which was even more upsetting at the time, that led to that 60-game season with absolutely no fans until what it was, it like the playoffs. There was like a couple people, like the World Series, I think had like some people in them.
Yeah. The World Series had people in Texas, or I think even the ALCS and the NLCS. They started with the championship series. So yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, we saw the ugly side of baseball in it airing out its dirty laundry with all the negotiations. Players were upset because they weren't making money, right? At least in the NBA and in the NFL, or excuse me, the NHL, they made the bulk of their money already, right? A lot of these players in baseball, not a lot of them, all of them didn't make anything. So that was the issue at hand. But, you know, speaking of issues, right, it seems that the Yankees have already run into their own issues. Many of you have heard of this in the past couple days, and it's tough not to grimace at the idea again that we have lost a pivotal part of our bullpen, the injury to Mr. Zach or Zach Britton, however you want to recognize it. If it's Zach with an H or Zach with a K, it looks like he's gone with the K for now, so that's what we'll go with. But, Zach Britton, he's kind of had a pretty rough go after the season's over, right? The Yankees lose. I didn't know this up until a couple days ago. He actually contracted COVID-19 back in January. And apparently, he was pretty ill because of it, to the point that he lost 18 pounds, which is insane to even think about that. But that's not the injury that he sustained that's landing him on the IL for about 3 to 4 months. It's the bone chip in his left elbow. So because of that, he's going to undergo elbow surgery for the removal of that. But you think that after the recovery time, he's going to be shut down for about 6 weeks. So they're going to have to build his arm up again. And that's saying a lot, in the sense that it's a big loss for the Yankees, because one can make the argument that Zach Britton was our best relief pitcher last season. Even though he only pitched 20 games, he still posted a 1.89 ERA, which was phenomenal. And at one point, it was like we wanted him in the most key pivotal situations.
Right. And, I think 6 weeks, you got to remember, for the Yankees, a 6 week report always turns out to be more. And I think, listen, it's still pretty early. It's early spring training, or I guess close to mid spring training now, or a few weeks away from opening day, which is on April 1st. I think today is actually exactly 3 weeks. So we're exactly 21 days away from opening day. So, listen, if he was going to take care of some stuff now, this is the time to do it. Ideally, you'd want it in the off season, but
right.
Listen, man, we need him. No doubt about it. We lost a couple relievers already. I know other people can pick it up. Like maybe O'Day can be a significant add to fill in, and we hope Chapman, is doing his thing in the closing role. But Britton was a pretty big, solid force for us, and like you said, he was kind of the go-to, or probably the one that you would want on the mound in late game situations, arguably even over Chapman for some people,
right.
Depending on the situation, of course, of that game. But it sucks. But I just, it doesn't seem like, at least the initial reports, doesn't seem like it's going to be something that's going to carry on for a very, very long time.
Right.
So if it's is his left elbow? Is that his pitching elbow?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
he's a lefty. So
as a lefty, so really the question is who's gonna, in that first month of the season, who's gonna be the one that kind of fills in for him, and our expectations of who that's gonna be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think immediately, sort of the showing that we've seen thus far as relief pitchers go, it's a familiar face. He has this stuff for it, and so far he's had a pretty standout showing this spring, and that's Jonathan Loaiziga. Right now, I know it's tough for some people to possibly stomach that, because he has been in key pivotal situations before, whether it was last season or the season before that. But he has the kind of stuff that you want to be able to harness coming out of the bullpen, because he throws hard, changes a lot of his pitches, different arm angles, that kind of thing. Today he pitched against the Phillies, right? So far this spring, he's appeared in 3 games, 6 innings of work, 0 ERA, 0 earned runs, excuse me. He's only given up 2 hits, 5 strikeouts, and no walks. And today he was just mowing down the Phillies lineup. So I don't think he's somebody that could be overlooked. You kind of hope that, this young arm is ready to take the next step and become a real pivotal piece down the stretch, especially when it comes to the playoff. Like Jose alluded to before, we're going to get Britton probably sometime around in July, which when you consider, that's around the trade deadline. I mean, if these guys could keep the pen intact until this time, and we're getting a fresh Britton coming back in July, that's as good as any trade acquisition that you could possibly make for a bullpen arm. So I like Jonathan Loaisiga stepping up in a big role for sure.
And Jose just mentioned, Chad Green would be a nice little fill in there too, even though he typically gets like a little bit of the earlier innings.
Right.
But maybe he could be that, rotation guy for that.
Yeah, Chad Green has been an iron horse for us coming out of that pen. He's been somebody that we could rely on in many different positions, whether it's, being an opener or coming out in the later innings. So maybe the roles get flipped. Loaisiga kind of takes over that spot where, on a short outing, Chad Green will come in like the 5th and 6th, and maybe Green gets bumped up a little further. But I will say one of the people that I do not want to see pitching on the mound at Yankee Stadium come opening day is Luis Cessa. Get Luis Cessa all the way out of here. I mean, the Yankees have this love infatuation with Luis Cessa. At this point, I just don't get it.
You know what's shocking to me about this, Dan? So you typically do not go on a limb positively or negatively about a lot of Yankee players. I mean, you have like your favorites or people that you really like,
right?
But you're not super vocal about who you really don't like,
right.
And I mean, I think the last person you didn't like was Greg Bird. Like, I don't remember you actually commenting that you don't like someone. So the fact that you do not like Luis Cessa is saying something.
Yeah.
So Luis, since you're probably one of the 10 people that listens to this, watch out, yo. DC the Guide is coming for you. He wants you to perform, or he wants you to go.
You're on the hot seat, man. Yes, you spoke about Greg Bird. Hey, look, I give people the benefit of the doubt early on. I want to see what you have. But if you're constantly in a position where you're seeing high leverage innings, even, there's times where Luis Cessa gets thrown into, throwaway innings where the Yankees are getting absolutely killed and will still come in and can't stop the bleeding. Right. I don't really see Luis Cessa fitting in with this team. And there's a lot of other standout arms that I think we're seeing so far as dudes that are coming in pivotal situations. You have Louis Lickey, who I think he's been showing something pretty good. Louis Lickey actually pitched today. He overall this spring training, he's 4 innings pitched, 2 hits, 0 runs, 0 walks, 10 Ks. I think he has more upside than Cessa has ever had during his entire tenure as a Yankee. And, you have to imagine that with Britton now going down, that they will look to have more secure arms in the bullpen. Yeah. Give him a shot. The dude hasn't pitched since 2015, and he's already performing way better than Cessa has ever done.
Well, he's been like lights out in spring training.
He has. He's 10 Ks in 4 innings pitched, bro. Like that right there kind of shows you. And for those that don't know who he is, he's the dude in the bullpen that kind of looks like Jay Happ.
And we actually have a little quick clip of him.
Throw that on, man. He's.
So this is. Wait, is it Lickey?
Lickey, yeah. Lickey is. Remember, we were like that. Yeah. We thought it could have been Loogie.
Yeah, we'll call him Loogie for now. But here's Loogie, left-handed pitching. I guess this was against the Phillies.
Right, this was against the Phillies today.
First pitch, and it's lifted in the air.
I don't think he's allowed to run during his
ballpark.
Yeah, he pretty much filled that closer role today. Granted, it was a 5-run lead, but
shutting him down.
I mean, Cessa ain't doing that. Okay, this dude, he's coming out. He's trying to make this team. He hasn't pitched on a major league ball club since 2015, but I mean, he's sure acting like he belongs there. So
Jose said Wilson 6, 7, 8, 9 innings. Wilson the lozenge.
the lozenge.
Loizaga, Green, and then Chapman.
Yeah. Nah, I mean, look, that sounds like an excellent formula going down the stretch for sure. But I don't really know, where Luis Cessa fits on this team. I can't emphasize that enough. I think
but Dan, so there was like 2 spots kind of up for grabs, right? Like, and who potentially would miss out. And now with Britton going down, now
it would be 3.
So who's those 3, or who are you thinking that those 3 might be? I mean, I guess you're going with lozenge.
Yeah, so I would have to say that Lickey is going to be in that position as far as pitchers are concerned.
Yeah.
Because Britton went down, Cessa's probably going to get another shot, even though that's not something that I want to see. I would particularly prefer Nick Goody or Nick Nelson over Luis Cessa. Those are some other guys that have kind of been showing out a bit. Nick Nelson throws pretty hard. And I mean, whenever somebody throws hard, you just got to find a way to harness that. And Nick Goody, he's kind of been a journeyman reliever, but he's had a decent showing. But again, anybody but Cessa. So you have those 2 spots available that are in the bullpen, but there is 1 spot available as far as position players go, right? And I think a lot of people, especially you'll see it on Twitter and a lot of other social media platforms, that they've pretty much given Tyler Wade the key to the locker room, that because Tyler Wade plays shortstop, how do they not bring him back? Because he is a utility guy, right? He can play third, short, second. Obviously, he doesn't really play the outfield like that, which is one of the things that I think limits him to not being a super utility guy. But I kind of like Derek Dietrich over Tyler Wade. Might not be a popular sort of opinion to leave, but one of the bigger things about Dietrich is that he does play the outfield. Oh, and you know what? He could actually hit the damn ball. Where Tyler Wade, I mean, he has a lot of speed, but unless he's walking, he's not really getting on base like that.
So to make this clear, Danny is coming for Luis Cessa's job, and now he's coming for your job, Tyler Wade.
Yo, Tyler Wade, dude, I mean, it's time for you to show out, man. You've had enough opportunities. Another thing that I think Dietrich provides over Wade is the simple fact that he's been with the Reds. The dude is yoked up. He's a solid lefty, so he's definitely going to take advantage of that short porch. He already hit a home run in spring training. He's been producing. He played first base the other day and played pretty solid. So he's definitely coming for that job too. So hey, Tyler Wade, you're on notice as well. Another matchup I think to look out for is what are the Yankees going to do about Mike Ford, right? Because they have Jay Bruce, all right? And listen.
Oh, my goodness, we have Jay Bruce.
Yeah, well, hey, I feel some similar sentiments when it comes to that because, Jay Bruce, he was with the Indians and then he went to – he was with the Mets. Then he went to the Indians. And I was just like, whatever, man. Jay Bruce, but, so far this spring, he's been producing 11 at-bats. He has a .455 batting average. He's hit 2 home runs, 3 ribbies, and he has a 1.545 OPS. Over Mike Ford, who has 2 more at-bats than him, 154 average, 0 home runs, 2 RBIs, and 0.35 OPS. And another thing that Jay Bruce has over Mike Ford is Jay Bruce has been in the playoffs, man. He's a seasoned veteran where, his him being there, I think, could definitely help the team down the stretch. So that's another person that I think to look out for. And Mike Ford has options, right? Mike Ford could actually go back to Scranton and be there for depth. Jay Bruce has made it very clear that he came to the Yankees to win a World Series, but he does have an opt-out clause if he doesn't make the team, which I wouldn't say should necessarily be his ticket to the team. But if he keeps producing the way that he is at the moment, it's tough not to say that Jay Bruce doesn't belong on this team.
But you're saying over Mike Ford. See, the thing is like, yeah. So I mean, valid points. But the thing is that this is kind of like a similar, actually, yeah, it is a similar type of argument, except for the statistics when it comes to left field. So like Brett Gardner in left field, you could make the same argument that he was the seasoned guy. He's had the experience, and he was taking away minutes. He was taking away time in left field from Clint Frazier last year, or even at times who was filling in. So, we've talked about this a lot, where we like Brett as much as we do, but we want to see Clint, and we want to see the next guy. We want to see maybe Talkman. We want to see people fill in. And that's where I'm going to flip on this side. I think I want to see Mike Ford, not only because we've seen him in the Tampa nightlife, but because I think, if we're going to see him do anything, I don't want someone like Jay Bruce holding him up. Nothing against the guy. If I know that he's been doing a little bit better, I'm not going to look at spring training and be like, hey, listen, that's what's going to make the call for me. I'd rather see Mike Ford, and Jay Bruce could get on the bus with Luis Cessa for all I care.
Yeah, no, I feel you. Hey, look, we have the propensity to really root for the homegrown guys, right? I mean, Mike Ford, he's paid his dues in the minors. He had a great 2019 season, which really didn't translate into the 2020 season. I'm not saying that it's clear that Jay Bruce, over Mike Ford, obviously, like, it's still up for grabs. But at this point, I think Jay Bruce is showing out more than Mike Ford has done in the past, the 60 games last year. And the small sample size that we have this spring training. Another thing to consider is that Jay Bruce does play the outfield as well. So even though, the Yankees have Giancarlo if they wanted to move him into right field, but Jay Bruce did play right field the other day too. So that's another option that the Yankees have as far as shifting the role and the positions. And he's also another lefty bat, I'm pretty sure, right, Jay Bruce? So yeah, that's another thing to consider too, as far as getting the lineup together. But hey, look, this is a spoil of riches right now. Okay. Yeah. Losing Britton wasn't ideal. Losing Clark Schmidt wasn't ideal either, but we're in a really good position at the moment. How could you not highlight, certain things about that have gone on in spring training, right?
Right.
In the sense that we've seen some big time play come out of our starters, right? Like, don't let the record fool you. Even though the Yankees are 5-4, a lot of those losses came at the hands of like lower tier guys that aren't even going to see a whiff of an inning this MLB season. So take it with a grain of salt and enjoy what our starters have been doing.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, let's really talk about who has been like the standouts. Let's talk about who so far. I mean, it's just a few games, and it's like, what are we, like 13 days or so into spring training, or 12 or whatever. Right. So let's talk about who has impressed so far, which kind of piggybacks off of that. But before we do that, let's bring in our very own, and Bree, I got a little intro for you.
So hold up.
This is, if you approve, this is going to be your intro every time you come on. But if you don't like it, just pretend you like it for now and text us later.
Just for now.
So welcome, Bree.
What up, Bree?
I'm a savage. Had but my bank account matching. Hood, but I'm bad. Rich, but I'm ratchet. Haters kill my name in their mouth, not a gag. Bougie. He say the way that thing moves.
Bougie.
Yo, I mean,
I don't know about bougie.
but listen, I think we could all agree that you are a savage when it comes to knowing your stuff about the game, right?
Try.
So shout out to Bree for joining us this evening and always being a key part of what we do here at the Gay Six Fam. If I may, just before we get into this a little further, just shout out to people that are in here and that have contributed already. Jose, our homie, yo, big shout out to you, brother. Thank you for being a constant contributor. Lizzie for watching. We love you, boo. Of course, we got Cisco Joe. Cisco Joe, we're gonna be picking your mind a lot more, especially with the trading cards, right? I've heard that you're a savant when it comes to that sort of thing, right? So
that or he's just gonna take our money. I'm good either way.
yeah. So those are the standouts here in this chat. So we salute you. But let's get back to talking about our standouts of spring training. Bree, what do you think? What do you think so far?
So far, I feel like overall, I'm content, I should say. Because I don't want to say that I'm like super happy because they've had some low moments. But overall, I feel like I'm content. There's nothing like troubling me besides our injuries. But outside of that, I think overall they're all doing pretty well.
No, absolutely. We spoke about this in the chat room the other day. And, while I'm about to sort of wax poetic on how great of a player that I think Giancarlo Stanton is, but we do have a little video to show that monstrous yabo that he served up yesterday.
Yeah, let's do this.
It is spring training, but
I don't care.
Yeah, like you're hitting the ball over 400 feet in what was that, a 3-run bomb that he hit yesterday?
Yep.
Right. You're hitting that ball. How could you not, wax poetic about, Giancarlo having the kind of playoff that he did last year and just picking up right where he left off and is hitting the ball hard and is just a straight baller out there on the diamond.
Right. All right, let's check this out.
Judge off third, Gardner off first.
Yeah.
That exit below, I think that was like 107. Somebody's car got messed up, had to go and get a new windshield.
They probably never had a home run in that area before.
Yeah, that was a pull special, but you love it. And you love the CG in that kind of shape, man. Like,
I feel like whenever he hits, I know right away it's gone. Like, it's just this weird thing about his swing where it's like, right away, there's no question. It's like, no hesitation, that's gone.
Right, absolutely. I mean, that was a clear goner, and that's what you hope to see from Giancarlo, right? That's how high reward he is, right? That's why the Yankees are paying him all this money to just be essentially a designated hitter. Is that the guy can
play in the outfield though?
Yeah, I think he'll see some time. Like, we've seen him sort of rotate like in left field, right field when players need days off. Again, going back to what I said before, it's a good problem to have. We're sitting on the rich get richer, right? Like, we have like a lot of really good options as far as this goes. But I think another person to bring up, right, and John is certainly hyped that Brett Gardner is back, and so am I. John mentioned it before that my main concern about Brett coming back was just taking time away from Clint. I know how you feel about Clint, Bree.
Yeah, but your concern was also the salary.
Right, the salary too. Yeah, like I didn't want him to come back and pretty much eat up the rest of the money that the Yankees had on reserve to bring in another arm in the bullpen. But, Gardy had a big moment the other day. And, just to remind you, in case we forgot, especially certain individuals, not named Nicholas Caballero, right, who I don't think is with us this evening, but he's with us in spirit. But, Nick, this one's for you, brother.
Praise you. I wonder what
Nick time in, and he writes, "Who's this burger at the plate?"
This cheeseburger.
This burger is as good as pineapple pizza.
Oh shit! My bad. What were you gonna say?
No, I wonder where Clint is gonna bat in the order. Like, you know.
Yeah. Well,
I thought that was
I'd
it.
imagine it'd have to be in the lower part of the order
Yo, note Sanchez on second base.
because
Same.
as a starter, you know,
He didn't strike out.
his bat
He
is
didn't
probably
strike
the
out,
weakest.
and he didn't hit a solo homer.
Oh, here we go.
Longest tenure, bro.
Yep.
Yo, looks like you knew about this.
I like
before,
Brett,
but
man.
I knew about it.
Yeah, I know
Talk
you
all
do.
the shit you want about Brett, he's still my guy.
Yo, he's gonna make you really happy.
Yeah!
There it goes. Yo, here's my favorite part.
Let's go! He ain't no burger! No burger!
He ain't no burger, yo.
He ain't no
He's not.
burger. He's a Gardy Patty USDA prime beef. Okay.
Probably the most excited I'll be during a spring training game.
Yo, I mean, why not? Like the thing is that Gardner, he does that very often. There was that game in 2019 that he did that against the Red Sox. I was over in the Toyota Terrace and it just rained beer because of how hyped everybody got after he hit that grand slam. But and I did sort of I didn't get a chance to finish that point that I was making because I saw that Gardner home run happen. So I guess some people could sort of take it as I was taking the shot at Clint. And it's not that I think Clint's bat is weak. I just think when it comes to the rest of the starters, he's definitely in the lower end of that lineup. And that's saying a lot about the Yankee lineup for sure. So looking forward to the Gardy party. So Gardy is definitely having a standout spring. And John, you alluded to this in the video as the video was playing. Gary Sanchez.
Yeah.
How could you not like what Gary is producing right now? He's shutting up all the haters. The dude is gone into cracking form. He even looks more comfortable out there, man. He's like serving up like balls that are low in the zone out into the outfield. I really think that Gary Sanchez is going to have a big season.
Yeah, I think so too. Bree.
Yes.
So I know you're really, really big on situational hitting,
I am.
and obviously, I mean, we all are, but big time pitching. So how have you felt about like the pitching so far? I mean, it's been pretty good. So do you feel confident that these guys, one, will carry us through the regular season to like a division title? Two, do you think this translates into like some postseason heroics?
Ooh.
Well, let me preface this by saying it's still spring training.
Yeah. early
not,
predictions.
Let's not jump the gun. But it makes me feel better knowing that they had a good start because hopefully that'll give them some confidence. And I think that's important because you need that when you are pitching in New York. And some of these guys haven't pitched in New York before. And that's a big deal for a lot of people, especially pitchers, because we've seen a ton of pitchers come and go in pinstripes. And some of them just can't hack it. And the pressure gets to them.
Sonny Gray.
The confidence is a good thing. But I'm not going to get too ahead of myself and think that this translates automatically. I mean, Cole will still be Cole.
Right.
Because he is who he is. Everybody else still has to prove it to me. I mean, I'll feel a little bit better going into the season, seeing how they start off, the first 5 to 10 starts. I would like to see how everything does.
For sure. Well, let's see.
Absolutely. Yeah. You brought up Cole.
There's Cole.
Cole pitched today.
Filled. Per use.
And he just looked absolutely filthy.
Swing and a miss.
If I didn't ever mention it on here before, I love him. So
yeah. I mean, he's a stud. We give countless accolades to Cole, and he's more deserving of it because not only is he a stud off the field, but a stud on the field as well. Yeah, today, this was his second start. He was meant to pitch last Friday, but then there was inclement weather that was in the forecast. So they didn't want to run the risk of the game getting postponed and him not getting his work in. So he pitched a simulated game at George M. Steinbrenner Field. But today he gave up 3 hits in 3 innings. 1 run through 5 Ks, and you saw his filth, right? He was catching them with off speed. It had a great bite to it. He countered that with a 98-mile-per-hour fastball. Like, if you're throwing that hook and then you're coming at him with just straight gas, how could they not catch up to that?
I also like the fact that Gary was has been catching him, because people made such a big deal out of that last year with him having a personal catcher. So that makes me feel good too, knowing like I can still trust it if Gary's going to be catching him also, and he's still going to be fine.
Yeah, I think what happened last season was the Yankees were really emphasizing framing with Gary, right? They wanted to increase his framing capability and his frame rate. And I think that really sort of etched into the other parts of his game and messed up his head, right? Offensively. Yep. And, when trying to frame, like, you're going to try to grab that ball before it like fully reaches that mitt. And that's why he had as many pass balls as he has. So far he's had a solid showing behind the plate. And like you just said, it's great to see him catching Garrett Cole again. So,
does anyone know why Kluber's only pitched once?
I that's a great question. I'm not sure if like they've really spoke about that. I think they're just trying to, like, especially since it's been a while since he's pitched, I think they're getting a lot of their work in as far as simulated games are concerned, but they're still trying to keep their pitch counts low. Kluber, since he hasn't pitched in a while, and Tyone, since he's coming off of Tommy John. But you posted this yesterday, Bree, and this is just sort of an updated stat with Cole having gone today. But between Cole, Davy Garcia, Herman, Kluber, Montgomery, and Tyone, right, our 6-man rotation, I guess you could say, 24 innings pitched, 5 earned runs, 18 hits, 31 Ks. This is my favorite stat, only 4 walks.
Yes.
And a 1.88 ERA.
You love to see it.
Love to see it. So, like you said, small sample size, spring training. Sometimes they're facing dudes on the opposite team that aren't even going to make the club. But you hope that this translates into the season. Herman has been absolutely filthy too. And that's another great thing to see. I have mentioned, me personally, it's going to be a little tough for me to root for him. I think he has a lot of amends to make, but he's hasn't pitched the way that he has in the Dominican League over the winter. He's pitched far superior than that. But this 6-man rotation, if this is what we have, I think we're in a good spot.
I think they'll be really, I think they'll be really good during the regular season. My only concern is when it comes to the playoffs, how it's going to look. But I did see that Severino threw off a mound, so that makes me feel good too.
Yeah, Severino. So Severino, I believe, is supposed to come back around the same time that Britton is, right?
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah. So if we get Sevy and Britton coming back in July and helping the Yankees down the stretch to either win a pennant or for the playoffs and eventually the World Series, those are 2 great acquisitions. And don't count Brian Cashman out. Like, I'm sure he's going to do his due diligence to find out who's available. But if he doesn't make those moves, at least we still have those 2 weapons coming.
Nothing against Cashman, because everybody knows I love him. But what happens, I feel like almost every year now, what happens when they try to do trades in the middle of the season is that other players and other teams use us just for leverage. And then nothing ever happens because they just hike up the price of somebody who's going somewhere else.
Yeah, right. No, absolutely. Every conversation last year started with Gleyber Torres.
I hate it. And they want so much from us and are willing to give back nothing. And I'm like, no.
Right.
So I don't even hold my breath for mid-season like trades or anything like that anymore.
Right.
Like, if it doesn't happen in the off season, it's not happening.
Yeah. So. Well, I think that's another reason why Cashman has really turned his attention to, international signing money and just being able to bring in players to develop them, because he realized that the Yankee bias is real, right? Yes. Like, they wanted Gleyber Torres for Michael Fuller, excuse me. And who was the other slow-mo that they were throwing out there with the Archie Bradley. They wanted like some big they wanted Glaber for him too with the Rays and excuse me, not the Rays, the Diamondbacks. So the Yankee bias is super real. It's kind of tough not to really cringe about the idea, but I think we're in a good spot at the moment, And well, speaking of Yankee bias, this was sort of a very silly thing that came up, and I think I might have posted it in the room, but we call this the bunch of sillies of the week. Silly is one of my favorite words, but I'm not quite sure what the author's name, how he pronounces it. It looks like it's Joe Giglio or Giglio of NewJersey.com writes how Lindor can surpass Jeter as the best shortstop ever in New York. Right now, for starters, this dude wrote an article when the Yankees were possibly going to get Lindor, just straight up trashing him. He's no Mookie Betts. You got to be careful what you spend on him. Blah, 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 blah. Fast forward to this week, he goes and he writes this silliness, right?
Is he a Mets fan?
I don't even know. I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't know that NewJersey.com existed up until like about 3 years ago. I mean, Brandon Cuddy, he covers the Yankees for NJ.com, but I'm not really familiar with a lot of their writers. But this is just kind of a reach for me. This is a clickbait. Hey, I'm going to put this hot take out there that has zero backing on it. I don't even know how you can make a ridiculous statement of this magnitude. But here's some of the highlights.
That's trolling at its finest, I feel like.
Yeah, no, and a lot of these guys, that's what they do now, right? Like because in order to, right, their careers are based on like clicks now, right? But he writes, let's face it, winning with the Mets just stands out more than winning with the Yankees. For one franchise, it's routine. For the other, it's truly special. Now, right there, I'm gonna stop you, man. All right, to come out and say that winning as a Yankee fan is not special, that's just absolutely ridiculous. Okay, just because we have higher expectations doesn't mean that we treat winning any less.
I'm speechless.
Yeah.
This is freaking ridiculous. This is ridiculous. When I knew that this was going to be a topic, I mean, I was laughing my ass off, bro. And I got to get the OG. I got to get the OG Jose to weigh in on this because I don't know who the hell Joe Giglio, whoever this guy is, trying to match my last name. I don't know who this guy is, but he's a clown. But we need to get the OG. And OG, just as we did to Bree, we got a little intro for you. If you don't like it, just text me later. Pretend like you like it for now, because it hurts my feelings. Hold on one sec. So, welcome, Jose Vela.
Yo. Oh, snap. Once you see those shoulders move, you know it's a wrap.
Exactly, sober. What's going on, my peoples?
Jose, thank you for joining us, bro. Thank you for joining us. So what do you think about this absolute nonsense coming
First
from
of all,
NewJersey.com?
stop with the New Jersey hate. I live in Jersey. I'm a Jersey City resident.
Okay.
Originally from Brooklyn via the Bronx, but, it's all good.
All right.
Listen, to John's point, it's all about a clickbait, right? It's all clickbait. It's all clicks. They need traffic to the website. The fact that he's, going against his own point from, on one hand, trashing the guy to now, this guy's going to be the next Jeter. Like, stop.
Well, not just the next Jeter. He's saying better than Jeter. Better than Jeter.
Until, somebody gets to the level that Jeter did with the 1, 2, 3, 4. That's right, 5 rings. Just stop.
Right.
Stop.
Right.
You can start the conversation when they get to 3. Yeah. Then you can maybe start the convo. For now, it's just a clickbait, just a guy trying, trying to meet his deadline.
Right.
You know.
Well, to build off what you just said about the rings, so he says, no, Lindor will never catch Jeter in total ring count, but I'd argue that the first post-COVID parade in New York City will be the most emotional in decades. If it comes with Lindor sitting on a float, it might as well count as 3 titles.
Stop.
No.
Stop.
That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
even as putting aside, the Yankee fandom that we all have, just listening to something like that just doesn't make any sense. It just sounds like somebody just trolling to get clickbaits, to get people talking about the article, to get, retweets and stuff like that. It just doesn't make any sense, man.
Right. So he goes on to say that essentially, while you can make a case that Jeter should have won the 2006 AL MVP, he didn't. The award went to Minnesota's Justin Morneau. Jeter's career is decorated with almost every award and accolade imaginable, but he was never voted as the league's most valuable player. So because of that, he's saying that Lindor's side has more upside than Derek Jeter's career.
Ask Lindor, what would he rather have? League MVP or 5 rings?
Right. Well, that just goes to show you the mentality of a lot of other
2
people,
rings?
Right? Like, why are you here for personal accomplishments? Like, rings are where it's at. And it's not like Jeter was like a Robert Ory or anything. Like, Jeter was a key part in the 90s and in the 2000 Yankees. So this is just absolutely insane.
You could argue he won that 2000 series against the Mets. He carried the team. I mean, yeah, the team, did well, but he set the table in every single game in that series. You know what I mean? So like to your point, he wasn't Robert Ory, making 1-3 with 2 seconds left.
He's an MVP.
And then win the ring. So let's cut the garbage,
Yeah. Yo, listen, they coined a new phrase after Derek Jeter, Mr. November. Right, a game where he hit that massive home run, and the game spilled over into the 1st of November because of 9/11. And Derek Jeter, in true Jeterian fashion, came up in the biggest spot. So let's pump the brakes with this nonsense already. Like, the dude's coming off a down year. Is he talented? Absolutely, but they still have to surpass 2 pretty good teams in that division, in the Braves and the Phillies, right? So let's not overreact.
The second best division right now.
Yeah, right.
If you're just looking at it on paper, that's one of the most competitive divisions, and it has been for the last couple of years, and they haven't won that division. So they first have to win their own division before they can think about surpassing someone who has 5 championships,
right?
And MVPs. And broke records and all of these things. Like, come on, let's be real here.
Look, the Braves are a young, gritty team. They're scrappy, they're a fight to the last out kind of team, and they're going to be tough to beat in that division. I mean, the Mets made some moves. Phillies, are consistent. I think that's a good word for the Phillies. They're consistent. But the Braves, it's going to be hard to knock them off that top spot, man.
No, absolutely. And that's my thing. Okay, focus on winning the division first before making all these bold comments. I think I mentioned it in one of the earlier episodes about Lindor taking the bait in one of the reporters and saying that, he sees them taking the city back from the Yankees. Like, why are we talking about that?
That will never happen.
Right, exactly.
That will never happen.
A prime example right now, okay? This is a Yankee town, and we'll sort of go into another sports area just temporarily. But let's talk Knicks and Nets, okay? The Nets went out and they acquired some big-time talent. But you still turn on the TV, and especially with like local talk shows and stuff, and they're talking about Emmanuel Quickley, R.J. Barrett, Mitchell Robinson when he was in there, and the New York Knicks, just showing that the Nets are always going to be a secondary team here, man. So
they're another team that has to win a championship before they can start saying anything about trying to surpass anybody else.
Yeah.
This whole thing just screams like there was always that like very small minority group that hates Derek Jeter, or I wouldn't even say hates. They just looked at him as overrated.
Like that one guy who didn't vote for him in the Hall of Fame.
Right. There's this small amount of people that just don't like him for whatever reason. Thinks that he was like just someone, that was just on a good team and was lucky to be there. Towards the end of his career, there was some defensive issues that he started to have because of his range. But you're talking about someone who won 5 rings, someone who was like the captain of the team, someone who came through in the clutch. I'm not even going to list everything because of this clown.
Yeah.
But
for almost 20 years. What do you think is going to happen eventually? Like, ultimately, at the end of the day, everybody gets old. Father time waits for nobody. Right. So he's not going to be perfect forever. Nobody was. Not even Cal Ripken was the best at the end of his career. So what are we even talking? And you're talking about, like, that's, like, the best shortstop ever. Are you kidding?
Yeah. No, I think a lot of people really undervalue his consistency. And the fact that Jeter was never like a A-Rod kind of talent where he was just naturally an amazing baseball player, right? He worked his tail off to where he got in his career. How could you not respect somebody that works to elevate their game? I mean, that's what we all want to do in every facet of life, right? We want to work our tails off to eventually get to a spot where we're good. And that's what Jeter did. But
I look at A-Rod and Jeter kind of the way that I look at Jerry Rice and Randy Moss.
Okay.
Because Jerry Rice is someone who was not, like, it didn't just come to him naturally. He literally was catching physical bricks to practice.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know that.
Whereas someone like Randy Moss or even like a T.O., like it was like they were born to do it. So I think it's very similar to that kind of concept of, like, some people are born with it and some people just work really hard and get good at it. And I think that's what I see when I look at Jeter.
Yeah.
Here's the thing with Jeter, right? Like, you talked about the A-Rods, and remember, he came up in that class of shortstops. A-Rod, Nomar, this guy for the Mets, Ordonez.
Yeah.
So, he came up with that class and he was the last man standing. 310 average, 77 RBIs, and 15 home runs for his career, right? But what people don't take into account, when did those 15 home runs come during the season? When did those 77 RBIs come in? When did he have that key 2-out base hit to give us a win to take over first place in late August?
Right.
You know what I mean? So people, especially the sabermetricians, they look at the statistics, they look at this and that, but they don't look at the in-game scenarios.
Yeah.
That he's come through in the clutch.
Exactly. And a great play to reminisce about that fills the narrative of what you're discussing, Jose, is remember that game against the Oakland A's when Shane Spencer completely shorted that ball to try to throw out Giambi at the plate? Derek Jeter comes all the way from short to the first baseline to toss the ball to Posada to apply the tag. Like, those are the intangibles that the sabermetricians and analytic nerds, like, you can't fathom that stuff. That's just instinct, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The guy broke his face to catch the ball.
Yeah, that's another great example. And there's so many.
That was the Red Sox game, yeah.
There's so many.
There's so many moments to just remember as a fan of the game and as a fan of the Yankees. And Lindor doesn't have those moments yet. And, he's still a young player, but the fact that he's already in his mid-20s and we're not actually listing one of those plays just yet, I don't see this happening. So,
yeah, no.
One good thing is, forget about this clown Joe, but I'm thankful that he did this because it makes me reminisce of the Jeter days. But we got to move on from this because this guy doesn't even deserve a whole 59 seconds.
Absolutely.
So let's go into the new addition that the Yankees just made and getting rid of Fox Sports Go as their go-to for a streaming app, and they introduced their own app.
Yeah. So just a little bit of backstory for those that don't know. Fox Sports used to own a percentage of the Yes Network. They sold off their regional sports stock recently. The acquisition finally went through, where they even sold off like certain assets to Disney. The Yankees were able to buy back majority stake in the Yes Network, and they in turn brought Amazon into the fold. I think part of the contract was they were going to finish out on Fox Sports Go last season, and some on this somewhat half of this, or excuse me, not half, but the early part of spring training. And now yesterday we got the Yes Network app, which is actually pretty good, man. We got a little video here to show some of the integration of the app and how fluid it is. This is a screen record from my phone, just kind of showing. So you'll notice the game. So that'll basically, that window up top will show you what's active on the Yes Network at that moment. You have Yankees magazine, Yankees highlights, what's trending in that moment.
By the way, I want to zoom in to Luke Voigt right now, but I can't. But I can see them guns on display.
Yo, he got them guns out. But yeah, no, and I think, John, you had mentioned this in the room, that one of the big things about this app is that apparently you're going to be able to watch the game from different kinds of angles, camera angles.
Yeah, it looks like you're going to be able to select certain camera angles at certain times throughout the game, which is really cool. Yeah. I mean, if you're interested in that sort of thing.
Yeah, so it's available to download in the Google Play Store, the Apple Store. You can sign in with your own credentials. You put in your TV provider, whether you have Optimum, Fios, whatever you have and are carried, and basically you'll have access to the whole thing. I know, yes, sort of pisses off some people. I saw people trolling the app, basically saying like, or complaining that it was taken off of YouTube TV and other streaming platforms as well.
That's a valid point, Dan, because there was a time where I was thinking of switching over to YouTube TV specifically because they had MSG and Yes, because I don't really watch anything else when it comes to like basics, like basic cable. And I was thinking of getting rid of cable for having that. So if YouTube TV dropped it, that sucks.
Yeah. My understanding is it's a disagreement between the two sides. I mean, you really don't know like which side is truly at fault, but I know it angers certain people, and I know Bree has some grievances to air out about the Yes Network. So what do you got to say, Bree?
Well, to be fair, I don't want to say that I have that I'm angry at the Yes Network per se. It's just because one day if I ever work for them, I don't want them to come back to this video and be like, she hates us. But my issue is I continue to wonder why you have a, multi-million company that you can't take the channel from the TV and make it like an option for anybody who wants to watch it across the United States.
Right.
Yes Network, there are lots of different, whether it's Fios or for me, it's Fios. I can't speak on other ones, but I did it for other servers. You can't get the Yes Network, or if you get it, you're not getting full access to all of the games. All I see on Yes Network on my TV is Michael K show. Okay. So don't get me wrong. I like Michael K and all, but that's not why I would be tuning into the Yes Network.
Right. So they have the games blacked out in Bree. For those that don't know, Bree lives in Maryland, so they have the games blacked out there.
And so my issue is that you're telling me that this company can't pull like a Disney Plus situation and just take this app and make it so that we can all watch it. I'll pay for it. It's not like I'm not willing to give them my money, but I'd much rather give Yes my money than MLB getting my money. Like I'm spending all this money to watch just the Yankees all season long, and some of those are blacked out. So I feel like I can't win here, and you're telling me there's no solution to this problem. I find that very, very hard to believe.
Absolutely,
it's a rights issue. It's a money issue with the providers. I have Hulu. I cut the cord. I have Hulu, and we had the Yes Network until October, and they cut Yes Network, MSG, all of that stuff got cut off. Why? Negotiation rights over carrying the channel. That's usually how, I know, at least once a year you hear about AMC and all these other cable channels about to get blacked out because of, whatever carrier doesn't want to pay the fees. That's what it comes down to. Right. Yes Network wants X amount from the carrier to carry the Yes Network. And as the years go by and the audiences increase, the fees are getting ridiculous because they know there's a market for it. Yeah. Fubo TV dropped Yes, YouTube, Hulu, and right now the only way to get Yes here in New York City is through AT&T, and you have to buy a package through them if you don't have a carrier to get a certain credential to log in to get the Yes Network and the games.
Yeah, it sounds like it's very convoluted in that sense. I agree with Bree. I don't know why. I mean,
I'm sure there are reasons. I'm not saying there's no reason.
Yeah, I think
you got to be able to get past it.
I think now that Amazon is a player and a partner in these negotiations and how to get things rolling, they might come out with some sort of standalone service. You also might get more Yankee games on Prime Video because of that. So I'd say, we give it some time and hopefully they'll right these wrongs, because I'm in total agreement with you. I could only imagine the frustration in not being able to see a Yankee game outside of New York for this reason. And you would think that it would be fairly easy to obtain, right? Because they are the most storied franchise in all of sports.
That's my point. There's so many of us that are not still, either they moved out of the New York area, they never were in the New York area. There are fans in other countries that want to watch the Yankees. So you're telling me you can't provide a service that made it accessible to people that are not in the New York tri-state area? That's crazy to me.
Yeah. Well, I think also a lot of it had to do before with the fact that Fox Sports had the controlling interest in the Yes Network. So the Yankees taking over the not full control, but the majority control of it. I think now they have a larger say in what can happen. So you hope that at some point they implement a lot of these ideas that you threw out there, Bree, and Jose, you also put it in a very articulate way as far as like the rights are concerned and how it makes it such a convoluted process.
So hold on a second. How would someone watch a Yankee game? What are the ways right now that someone would tune into a Yankee game? You have to have cable, right, to have the Yes Network, or what? Or you have MLB TV and not be in a blackout zone, so you can't have MLB TV really in New York. It doesn't really do you any good.
Right.
So you can't be a cord cutter, right? You have to still have cable to some extent in order to watch them. I was looking forward to Amazon. There was talks about this last year, I think, or like a year and a half ago, about Prime showing a certain amount of games. And that's great because, for those of you that already have Prime, that means that you would be getting a certain amount of games already. I don't know what that deal looks like, but it'll
probably look like the football package. Like the football package. After the halfway point of the year, they'll pick selected games and show it on the network, on the Prime.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's a ton of different possibilities. I guess they could move in a certain direction now. Now that they have this app, I think this is them cutting the cord from Fox and sort of giving them their own opportunity to do things with it. And you have to imagine that Amazon is going to be a key player in this as well.
I think from a revenue standpoint, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just another thing too to remember. I don't know if they're going to continue with this, but remember there were like a few Facebook Watch games as well for the MLB. Not last season because it was a shortened season, but the season before that in 2019. So now I wonder if it goes back to that since it's a full 162 schedule and Facebook becomes a larger player in it too. And that would be good because, I mean, most people have access to Facebook. It's one of our streaming platforms right now. But go ahead, Jose. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, as you know, the sports market gets more and more digital. I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot more teams go this route where they create their own apps where you can watch the games on the app. But in order for it to be sustainable and to reach, maximum to get maximum coverage, you're going to have to find a way to get the games to the people who want to see it most, right? To the people in your market, to the people out of market. How do you do that? Subscription service directly through the app. I'm pretty sure Bree, myself would pay, I don't know, $20 a month, $25.99 a month just to get Yankee games, or you could get a Yankees and Nets package for $55.99 a month.
Right.
If you're
Liberty and Liberty and Red Bulls.
And Red Bulls. I mean,
I'm sorry, not Red Bulls.
NYCFC.
NYCFC. I mean, I'm an NYCFC fan, so I'd pay to see it. Any type of subscription package, and then the revenue goes directly to the Yankees.
True.
You know what I mean? So that's, to your point, Dan, maybe that's something that's coming down the line, but they have to start thinking a bit more progressively. That's what Disney did. They reacquired all their content, and now you come to one place to watch all the content.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's pretty interesting because the Fox asset got sold off to Disney, and then Disney sold their stake in the Yes Network to back to the Yankees, and then the Yankees sold it off to Amazon to bring in another player on the deal. But imagine if it was like incorporated with Disney Plus somehow.
Well, that was part of the antitrust deal. The buying of the Fox, they couldn't include the sports assets because there would be too much of a monopoly, and Disney already has ESPN.
Right. Okay.
So they couldn't control those assets. So the sporting aspect had to be divvied off into other areas. They couldn't buy that. That was off limits.
I got you.
Well, I also think too, like when you get and I don't want to dog out the MLB people either, but when you get the MLB subscription, that doesn't include things like spring training. It doesn't even include the playoffs because the playoffs are nationally televised. So I get that. But there are other things that they could show that fans would like to see. I'd like to see like behind the scenes stuff. I'd like to see them, recording some of those wonky, goofy commercials they make every year. Like things like that you don't get to see as a fan that you would want to see, that you'd pay money for. I spend $100 every year to get MLB, and that's not a full year of a subscription because the baseball season, really is like from April to. When did the playoffs start? Is it like September? And
middle September, yeah.
Yeah, so you're talking like not even 6 months, and I'm spending $100. So obviously, I would pay the money. I think that they should just provide us with a better service. But that's just me.
Yeah. Well, I think that the Yankees will have certain things down the pipeline with this new app because they have included like the Yankees magazine and Homegrown is in it too. You could watch like homegrown episodes about the Yankee prospects and their journey through the system. So I think now that they have full control of this, they'll look to expand on that. And I think they'll also do it with the Nets too, now that the Nets have become a powerhouse in the Eastern Conference. So I sort of expect big things to happen with the Yes Network app. But you could like play around with it and see, like, for those that do have some connectivity as far as like a cable provider, you just input your login stuff with your respective company and you make it happen. You can enjoy those things that I mentioned, and hopefully Yankees and Yes Network, John J. Filippelli, all those guys. If you're listening, listen to the words, heed the warning of Bree and Jose, and make your fans happy, right?
Make it $20 a month, and you'll get many subscribers, all those camera angles, $25 a month, $30 a month if you want to have a virtual sit-in on the bench next to Aaron Judge.
Yep.
These are the things you should be doing.
I will pay for that.
Yeah, man, be a little more innovative in this tech nuanced time that we are experiencing in this day and age. But so just a quick last minute shout outs to all of you that have joined us this evening. Our boy Nick, we can't emphasize enough how much we appreciate you coming on, especially jumping on right before you go to work. Nick works the graveyard shift, so this definitely means a lot. We got to get you on again too soon so you could talk about the glamorous life of Brett Gardner. Stephen Ing, our fan father, thank you for checking in, brother, and chiming in and talking about the Yes Network nuance, and also throughout the mention of the ESPN just acquiring the NHL. Lizzie, we always appreciate you. Thank you for being a big time supporter. Cisco Joe was on earlier. We also had Jono, my homie Jono, homie for life, kid I grew up with. We play baseball together. He's a big time supporter of us, so we appreciate you as well, my dude. And last but certainly not least, the two of you, Bree and Jose, for constantly being big time contributors, whether it be on here or in the Facebook group. We can't emphasize enough how much we appreciate your time and your passion towards the Gate 6 fam. So we are going to be doing a stream this weekend of the game. But John is also, he just started a group for the new app that came out of Clubhouse. Unfortunately, invitations are limited. There's just like this really convoluted way of like being able to get invites to the room. But if you are interested in potentially joining the Clubhouse,
you have to be special. You have to be special,
right?
Which iPhone.
Yeah, you have to have an iPhone. Which I don't, so I'm not on it. I'm not on it yet. but John's gonna be holding, and Bree and Jose will be on there too, and a bunch of other people. I think we're up to like about 17 members right now.
Yeah. So this Sunday we'll be hosting something. It's a pregame discussion, actually. So we'll probably piggyback on some of the stuff that we were talking about today. A little bit of an introduction to Gate 6 and then the rest of the group that's already joining in on there. So we'll do that for about an hour and lead right into the game against the Blue Jays on Sunday, which I guess then we'll also be live here for some of that game. So yeah, if you want to tune in, sign up on Clubhouse. If you don't already have it and have an iPhone, shoot me a message. I'll send you an invitation. Just try.
You don't have an iPhone, you're SOL.
Yeah, I have seven invites. So if somebody needs an invite, let me know.
I have some too.
I got you guys. So
okay, all right. So hit up Jose Velez, hit up Bree Jackson. They have the additional invites and get in on the fun. The good thing about the Yankee side of things on Clubhouse, it hasn't really been tapped into yet, and we're one of the first groups to be in there. So, if you like what you see here, the same thing is going to translate over to Clubhouse, and it'll give a lot of other people the platform to talk the Yanks. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And then another thing too that John and I have been doing, for those that don't know, with the sort of resurgence of trading cards, we've gotten back into the trading card game, and John and I have been aggressively buying baseball cards, and we've been doing, or we at least did one unboxing already, and we're going to be doing another one. This is going to be the Topps Chrome series, and it's actually an updated series, so we got some newer baseball cards. So we'll be doing one of those videos as well and posting them on our YouTube channel and our Twitch. But once again, everybody, we can't thank you enough for tuning in. As always, before checking out, we like to do it in a grand old fashion, as we do Gate 6 style. So take it away, Johnny.
If the squad ain't with me, then it ain't right. Yeah. Hey. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah. Hey. Yeah. Hey. 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 Same squad. Drop top, coupe, dodge, raindrops. Big back plays on FaceTime. Squad ain't with me, then it ain't right.